Welcome to my 27th video of my 30-day challenge. In today's video, we'll be speaking about the fallacy of viruses originating from cellular organisms. Hi, my name is Eduardo Hernandez. I'm the creator of the newest theory in the origin of life called Emergent Chemical Evolution. I'm also the author of the book by the same name. You can find them in all major online retailers. Let's get on with it. The simplest cellular organism has hundreds of genes. Hundreds of things need to occur for a lipid cell membrane organism, a cell, could sustain itself. Whereas if you look at viruses, the simplest virus has only 4 genes. All it does is create proteins that encapsulate itself and that aid in the replication of its RNA. But basically, that virus, when it finds itself in a certain pH, it disassembles itself, then allows replication of its RNA, and then when it finds itself in another different pH, those proteins become more rigid and start to self-assemble, which, again, the chaos engine, the central part of my theory, would be the perfect mechanism for a system like that to evolve, to come up. And the direction of evolution, going from simpler to more complex organisms, is demonstrated with viruses. Here you have a virus. Tobacco mosaic virus is the virus with 4 genes only. This virus cannot become more complex. It is perfectly suited to just provide the protein coat and the encapsulation of its short strand of RNA. Should any defect be introduced into the RNA that would cause the protein coat to change, that protein coat will no longer be able to perfectly fit and encapsulate the RNA. And that would cause, in that individual virus, that would cause it to no longer exist. That would be an extinction event for that organism. 99.9% of all organisms that have lived are now extinct. So any change in the DNA of organisms usually causes extinction more than change. So the detrimental destruction of a cell, I find, will be highly improbable that from that would come an organism such as a virus out of the destruction of a cellular organism. That cellular organism would have to have components that would spontaneously reassemble itself and encapsulate the RNA, because you have different types of viruses. You have genetic systems of viruses that are totally different from cellular and that only have RNA single strand, RNA double strand, DNA single stranded, or DNA double stranded types of viruses. So you don't have that in cellular organisms. You don't have cellular organisms that only have RNA as its genome. so that a virus would spontaneously come out from a cellular organism only encapsulating RNA would be highly improbable, because you would need the components to be able to be compatible only with the strands of RNA and somehow spontaneously assemble. I think if you look at the size and the different complexities of viruses, they perfectly fit between molecules and cellular organisms. The simplest viruses are so small that they're molecular, almost in size. And the most complex you can see with a microscope. Like the Mimi virus, which has 1.3 million genes, is still just a virus because it does not self-replicate. It needs to find itself in the cytoplasm of a cell in order for it to multiply itself. So the Mimi virus just needs a couple of genes to evolve in order for it to do that job. That's the only job it has. It has genes and proteins that manipulate and digest amino acids and other metabolic processes that are totally different from cellular organisms. So, like I said in my previous videos, you would get different lineages from a viroid that will lead to different types of viruses and have them then become more complex and then introduce different genes by chance that would come about by mutation, and therefore you would see them do the same type of job with different types of proteins. Of course, if you look at the proteins of these different organisms, the proteins are different in sequence but very similar in shape, and the shape of proteins is what causes it to do its catalytic ability, and that can be achieved in different routes. So the direction of evolution makes sense when you look at it from molecular to viral to cellular. Again, the catastrophic destruction of a cellular organism, I highly doubt would spontaneously produce viruses. That viruses came from cellular organisms because the dogma is, with the current research of origin of life, is that a cell spontaneously formed to start life. And that, like I've discussed in other videos, is very untenable. There's nothing in the genetic history and sequences of cellular organisms that would point to such a system. What is more probable is that that viruses were the product of the evolution of RNA becoming more and more complex in the chaos engine. I hope that this video was informative, that my reasoning was logical, and that you give a like and share this video. Thank you very much.